That's all cool. Okay, so I'm going to welcome Yvette and
Hello.
welcome everybody on RES502 Term 4, 2020. So I'm going to share a screen, and it looks like this. So I think that the most important thing, Yvette, is for you to really understand what is action research.
Yeah.
So start talking to me.
Well, I think from previous conversations that we've had, it would probably be helpful. First, I think in research, you know how we talked about, I wanted to talk about the stretch of learners, like how that's difficult. And you were like, that's not personal enough. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's good.
Yeah. I think probably just clarity around what qualifies as what we should be researching in ourselves, and then what action research means.
Yes. You see, for me, when I first came across the term action research, which I must confess I'd never come across until I came to Alpha Crucis.
Oh, really?
No. So I'd done research for my master's, I'd done research for a PhD, but never done action research until I had to start studying what it was to write the stuff for this course. And I did that for Jenny Bickmore Brand years ago. So I approach what action research is from I guess I've got to understand this so I can teach it point of view. I wasn't doing it as such. Actually, I confess I've never done any action research.
Yeah.
And yet I've taught dozens of people and taken them through their course on action research.
Yeah.
So I'm really, and I'm also going on the fact that many students have a real tussle with getting to grips with what it is. So, you know, what you just said there, Yvette, about understanding what you need to research about yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know that actually is a really good starting point.
Okay, well, do you want to talk about action research? I understand action research as research that is active. Like, it's got to be in the process of it.
Yeah, that is very, very true. I wouldn't say that's a core. I really want you to get away from the idea that you've got to do a research project. And you all know, I think, what a research project is. And you go to books, you go to journals, you collect data, you understand qualitative, quantitative data collection, you analyze data, you wrestle with a research project. I think you've got to throw that way out the window and come at it from another direction. So, well, there's a few things. So on this page here, let me just talk about my photos. I don't think I've talked to you about my photos. I was
hoping you'd do that.
Yeah. Now, at the beginning of an intensive I was doing on action research, whenever it was, not long ago, the first 3 days, it was as if the people in front of me had their head in a snowdrift and their feet were sticking out, and they had no idea whether they were right way up, upside down, or whatever. They were totally confused.
So it's not bad that I couldn't answer the question in the first 5 minutes.
Correct. So after 3 days, it was as if we've got our students right way up. They were up to their thighs in snowdrift, and they actually could roughly see through the mist where they might want to go.
Yeah.
But they couldn't go very far because of the stupid snowdrift in front of them and the blizzard.
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, there they all are, having an absolute ball. All the stress is gone. They know what they're doing, and they're having a snow fight. So
Yeah.
I think that's the journey that everyone has to go through in wrestling with what is this thing and what's it going to mean for me, because what it means for me isn't necessarily going to be a really good definition for somebody else.
Okay.
It's got to be really real for you. And if you go to down here to, let me take you to, under the project resources, there are two big PDFs, A and B. I would recommend that in the moments before term 4, you really get stuck into 502 course research part A, because that is the, if you like, that's the course, and it was designed for people to study online.
Yeah.
And you will come across in there a wonderful guy, Richard Sagor, and I just can't get his picture out of my head. So let me just take you to that. Richard Sagor, Action Research Guidebook, 4-Step Process for Educators. But this video, I won't play it now, but if it does, it come up? Can you see this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, here's this, oh, bloke, go back. Here's this bloke. I think he's a principal of a school. He's sitting in a chair which is absolutely astronomical.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that short. I think it's just a very, very big chair.
Yeah.
And the way he talks about action research is brilliant. So listen to him a few times. It's only short, 4 minutes. Listen to him a few times. Bear in mind that he's talking about his staff in a school, and in their context, they were all going to be doing bits of an action research project which interlinked between everybody. It was magnificent. For a whole school to move forward. They were all doing their little bit of action research. But if you can, so that isn't the same as you, because you're doing yours on your own.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, the whole thrust of what action research is, I think, really comes over very well from him.
Yeah.
So the next thing I think I would go on about, so really get into part A. Don't worry about part B, which is more about the analysis and all the rest of it, and writing it up, which is later on. But get yourself into part A if you've got any moments between now and term 4.
Yeah.
So now then, the next thing I would like to say to you is think about the context where you might be conducting your action research. Now, in the good old days, in inverted commas, last year, everybody had a semester long, and they had a 500C somewhere in a school, and it was all quite normal. And that was the place where everyone did their action research.
Yeah.
While they were doing their final placement. It was a lot of work, but it worked. It was a good synergy. Now, this year, people's placements are all up the spout, and there may not be coincidence between a term 4 and your placement. Don't panic. I think that's actually quite entertaining, because the action research is about you. It's not about the kids. All the kids are involved with, if they are, is like a mirror, a means of measuring something because you can, but it's not about them, it's about you. So let me tell you a little bit of a story about Saban. He won't mind me mentioning his name. He's in Western Australia, and he was describing some of the issues he had with his class control. And Okay, but then he had to do his action research project, and there was no placement for him, and he couldn't go into school. So what did he do? Well, he got a job in Coles as a manager. So what he did was he created some questionnaires for the workers that reported to him, and he crafted the questions to ask them what they felt about his leadership.
Wow.
Of their role, his role in Coles, which was fantastic because they were adults and he didn't run into any ethics issue with children.
Yeah.
B, they were articulate, that they could have a more adult conversation with him. So it wasn't just questionnaire, it was, if you like, focus group interviews with them. And out of that, he learned a bunch of stuff about how he would manage his class.
Yeah.
And so that was his action research project. So I would say to you, and I'll shut up for a minute and let you talk, what is it that you feel that you would like your own performance to be stretched more, to be improved, developed? Do you feel there's a part of you and your teaching career that needs more attention than others? Would you be passionate about it? Would you be keen to pursue this because you'd be excited to see what might develop?
Yeah. I think if I hadn't done my second prac, a month ago, it definitely would have been behavior management. But because I did that on placement B, I can't use that anymore. But probably the two things that I really want to develop in is, and this is a tricky conversation, is how I manage the stretch of diverse learners. Like that, how you stretch yourself. So, for example, one class that I'm in, you have there's 7 in one and there's 11 in the other of kids who range from ADD, dyslexia, 3 or 4 years below level, English additional language, like all this stuff. Like, how do I as a teacher manage that stretch? Because, and this is probably where my own self comes into that, is that I had a bad experience at the start of the year, and now I have significant self-esteem issues when it comes to my teaching. And so now with this stretch, those learners are now in the assessment period, because I've returned to the same school for my 3rd placement. And I worked so hard to teach them everything I could for things that they developmentally, they can't even think comparatively. So how do they write a comparison essay? But I can't modify the standard that they have to achieve. So how do I not take that on personally, that that's not my fault, that I didn't do good enough at differentiating for them? So I think those are two things.
That's really fascinating, because what you can see is you're worried about, are you stretching enough for the whole range? But actually you admitted that the issue was your self-confidence.
Yeah.
Fascinating. And therefore, you may look at how well you differentiate, or techniques of differentiation. That may potentially be a part of your action research. But I'm wondering whether or not you could, I'm wondering whether you could take the confidence thing. You see, you wouldn't be the first. I've had quite a few, not in semester 1 actually, who were on that ticket of the self-confidence. How how do I overcome that fear of inadequacy in the classroom?
Yeah.
And you see, I think that's an absolutely fundamental element of your calling. And if you are, if you're really called, then you're equipped. And no matter what is thrown at you, you end up the right way up.
Yeah.
So it's got to be, it's going to be entirely unique. You know, what you do isn't going to be the same as anybody else ever, because you're unique. And it's not got to be too big that it's ridiculous and you'll never do it. And we've only got a very small amount of time.
Yeah.
And let me say this, it's not really, it doesn't matter that you won't be able to finish the project, because let me just talk to you about the spiral. The spiral of action research is, on the bottom layer, you're discovering what it is that needs to be studied. You're identifying an issue, you're identifying a cause. And then, okay, what can I do to measure? Oh, no. What strategies can I put in place to improve that? And then you run the strategies and you measure the outcomes of those new strategies. And if you had time, you would then say, okay, well, 30% of them worked, but 70 didn't. Therefore, let's have a new plan and go into this again. And it's a continuous spiral of self-improvement all your life. And all you're doing in this action research project is beginning the first circuit.
Yeah.
So don't ever get frustrated by the fact that, there's only 10 weeks, I've got to get this finished by December.
Yeah.
Don't worry, because it won't be finished in December. It will go on and on throughout your career. So it's only so this project is getting you into the idea of, teaching. I thought teaching was that, but now I realize it's continuous self-improvement. Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm the best person, and I need to get the best people around me to give me assistance. The worst thing a teacher can do is feel they've arrived. Oh, I've got my degree, I'm accredited, I'm off, fantastic. No, you've just started.
Yeah.
So if you've got that attitude of, I need to want to improve. Yes, today was a disaster, but tomorrow's going to be better. I'm going to rise up again and get going again. So it's a really fruitful project. I've forgotten where I was going. So back to you and your project. You see, I'm talking to the others as well. Be thinking about where you're going to be for the rest of this year, physically, what contexts, who you might potentially get to partner with in terms of this project. And I would really strongly resist you thinking that you can interview any kids, because if you do, that would mean a full-blown ethics application and it would take forever. So you'll find in this course here, there's a ethics statement where you basically claim, no, I'm not going to be dealing with minors, therefore I don't need to do a full ethics. And Jim signs off and says, yeah, no, you don't.
Yeah.
So that's not to say that you can't look at kids' work. You know, you could take the work in and analyze their assessments. You could. That wouldn't require ethics.
Yeah.
But if you start doing questionnaires,
Yeah.
or if you start doing focus groups with kids, or you start doing observation of kids,
Yeah.
dodgy. Or you certainly can't be filming and recording. You'd be in big trouble. So that is a little issue to bear in mind in terms of thinking about your context, because it could be your connect group,
Yeah.
or your church, or a bunch of friends, or your family. It could be, but bear in mind you need some context which you can measure. Hence the research bit. You measure the impact of.
So one thing I was thinking about, because I can't interview kids or anything, and this is like my one is really of a real, well, all of them are meant to be of a personal nature, was to actually like to do, like one thing I found really helpful on my second placement was at the end of everything that I did, whether it was, you know, a staff PD meeting or I took a lesson or anything that I did, is I just took 5 minutes just to write down my thoughts, my feelings, my observations. And so because of what I'm thinking to do for action research, I've already started to do that on this placement, because then it's my own thoughts and I've got that record there, because that's how I can judge my own thinking.
No, that is absolutely brilliant. And you can certainly reference your own journal. And that's participant observation research. So yeah, that's absolutely valid.
Okay.
Brilliant.
All right.
But that's only one. You can't rely on, you know, just one piece of data coming in, like your journal. You've got to have others who can have an objective view. You've got to have some arguably objective data rather than subjectivity to give you triangulation of findings.
If you're on placement, can you use your mentor teacher? So that would just mean that I have to think of some questions now that I wanted to give them throughout the process.
Yeah. But you know, between now and the end of term 3, be thinking about, you know, crafting a small sentence that might be your project. What would it look like? And by all means, stick it on the news forum so others can see it, and I will respond, or maybe others can respond as well, and say what they think of it. And it's a bit like fashioning a tool. You know, it's going to take some sandpaper, some knife work, and polishing.
Yeah.
So, is that any help?
Yes.
Are you still got your head in the snowdrift?
Yes, but less. I think the research part isn't going to be my issue. I think that at the moment, everything we've talked about for me personally is very broad. That's why something like behavior management would have been so easy, because the sentence is, I want to improve my behavior management skills, you know, and then you just go through. Whereas now I think once you think to anything internal about the heart of who you are as a teacher, it gets very murky and very complex. And so to narrow that down and refine it to a statement that you can say yes or no or in progress, that's probably my difficulty at the moment, is that I haven't been able to refine that enough. So the whole thing just seems massively overwhelming still.
Sure. Very good. Very articulate.
Yeah.
You see, I'm wondering about your college setting. Whether or not...
I lecture at Bible College, for those watching the video.
Yeah. I mean, just contemplate. I suppose what I'm saying is try and imagine where you will be next year, where you'll be teaching next year. What is your immediate goal as a teacher? Is it going to be more of the college, or is it going to be high school? What is it going to be? And then, okay, what do I need? How do I need to be equipped to do that job better?
Yeah.
What might equip me better? What is going to be the biggest rub when I get there?
Yeah.
So But then, even having said that, you might find that context of the college might be a place where you could do some research.
Yeah, that's true, because they're all over, well, most of them are over 18.
There you go.
Yeah.
And another guy this last semester did an amazing project on online learning.
Yeah.
He works for an organization that does, it sounds a little bit uninteresting to say that he's a tutor in a tutoring organization, but he is. And it's a fascinating job. And he was doing it really out of his calling, out of his personality. And when COVID came in and he was switched off, he went into a tailspin. How on earth am I going to teach online? And so he went through a massive journey of how on earth am I going to connect with kids when I'm not actually in the same room? So what he was doing was he worked through how he, in his work, had to put his lessons onto digital, and how he overcame the difficulty and the distance of being remote from kids, and they were junior kids, primary. So arguably, they don't survive so well, I would say, as adults and high school kids. They don't. They need the personality of the teacher, and it was sadly missing. It was a fascinating little project. Got himself an HD, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think, look, read coursework part A. Anything else you get, grabs your attention. You know that the 3 asterisks mean worth a look.
Yeah.
So look at the 3 asterisks particularly. And don't forget, we're early. The reason I'm doing this video is so that we get people a head start if they've got the space. There's one guy in Europe who's did have some space. Whether he's now run out of the time, I'm not sure. But it would be really helpful for him to get his head going first. And using the time now.
Are we able to, like, we can talk together on the like on a forum post, the students together?
Yeah, that's the plan. So go in there. That's the main class forum. That's I'll tell you what I did with last semester's lot. I had a list of them all in my diary, and basically the first bit was the wrestling of what is your project going to be. So I basically wrote down, and that was my jottings for semester 1. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in semester 1. And so I wrote down what date I'd had a chat with them, where they're coming to, and I sort of graded them in my mind in terms of, yay, they're up to it, they've got it, 9 out of 10, or they're still struggling. So phone calls, Zooms, news forum stuff until they get it. Yeah. Oh, and I will say that this semester, if you look at the weightings for the marks, the proposal and the ethics disclaimer and all that stuff, and the literature review, the initial literature review, is all 40%.
Okay.
So you get 40% of marks even before you've started. And then the 60% is for the final thing, which does include the literature that you did in the first place. So this is a time when you can actually submit the same material twice and you won't get pinged for plagiarism.
Okay.
So don't get panicked about 8,000 words, because you're actually doing probably 2 or maybe 2,500 for the first sitting.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. That is very helpful. Thank you, Dr. Jim.
No worries. You have a very good day and enjoy Queensland. And have a word with your Premier and tell her to get real. Sorry. Mustn't get political. Bye.
Bye.